Good evening, everyone. Okay. Um, Good evening and welcome everyone to Upton Park's monthly program. Hope everyone is keeping themselves hydrated in this heat. Before we start, a very quick question to everyone, with just you need to put it in your mind, no need to answer that. When was the last time you sat somewhere completely alone, no background noise? Just think over it in your mind. And if that's hard to remember, you are exactly where you need to be today. Our topic is digital detox to mental silence, which is an invitation to switch off, even if it's just for a little while. Through meditation, our speaker will help us understand how stepping away from our screens is really just the first step. The real destination is the quiet that exists basically within us, underneath all the noises. So let's begin. Please join me in welcoming the speaker, Brother Rajesh Patel. A brief intro about the brother. Brother Rajesh holds an engineering degree but has profound passion in connecting technology with people, not just fixing the systems. For nearly 40 years, he has practiced and taught Raja Yoga meditation, translating ancient wisdom through logic and simplicity, balancing spiritual depth with material life. Welcome, Brother Rajesh. And before we start, just few housekeeping rules. We will take up all the questions at the end, but in case there are any questions during the time Brother Rajesh is sharing his wisdom, feel free to open your chat boxes in the Zoom and just type the questions and we will take them at the end. Okay, over to you, Brother Rajesh. Welcome. Welcome to Upton
Thank
Park.
you very much. It's good to be here. I think it's been a while since I was there in person. So thanks to COVID, everything's now done online, which makes it easy. Okay, so I'd like to start off with a couple of images. And for those of you who are familiar with the teachings of the Brahma Kumaris, a circle represents lots of different concepts. And one of those is that there is no beginning and no end. And so in this session, whatever comes to your mind, if you've got any questions, great. If you have already heard it, even better. And so we're just kind of doing a refresh of things that you already know and have already experienced. And so you might be thinking it's new, but it's, cyclical. And of course, the next aspect is that we are all beings of light. Okay, so this is going to be a interactive and very much participation-based session. And because it's digital detox, you need an actual physical paper and pen or pencil. So just give you a moment to get your hands one of those. And hopefully, you're of that generation where it's not foreign and to be able to actually use a paper and pen. Because that's one of the challenges in this digital world. Um, so we'll look into that. Okay. So now that you've got your paper and pen ready, let's begin our expedition into the jungle. Now, I've grown up pre the digital age, arguably even pre the electronic age, because I predate the transistor, or at least what most people think of as transistors, beginning with a transistor radio. Having said that, I did my first degree in electrical electronic engineering, so technology has always been very fascinating. And so when we look at what it means to take or go into digital detox. Like I said, I've actually grown up without technology, even without TV. And so I'm very familiar with being able to uh, not only survive, but thrive without technology. Having said that, I've been at the forefront of pretty much most technologies. So I've been using the so-called smartphone with something called a Palm Pilot. For those of you who remember those ancient devices, they predate smartphones. And then I was on the Microsoft Windows Mobile before most people had heard of Apple. So we are now in a mental, physical, and vibrational space where we are literally overwhelmed with technology. If I ask you just to take a quick look around and do a quick count, how many digital devices are within just the range of your eyes? And if you've got less than six, you're doing very well. I can't even count how many I've got. There's definitely more than 12, probably 20 at the very least. So let's start with this culprit here. Make sure you put it onto your airplane mode and silent, because that's the first thing that you need to learn about your digital detox is to understand that this thing has a purpose and we need to master that device. Okay, so we're all familiar with calories, and those of us who need to maybe lose a little bit, we are familiar with how everything that we consume can add or can help with losing weight. So if you were to just think about how much you're consuming in terms of digital calories and in the terms of diets and health, digital calories, certainly in the developed world, are just as bad as real calories because we have way too much calories than what we actually consume. And so let's give you some measurements so that you can take into account what you are consuming. Those of you who've done any kind of binge watching, the common platforms, and Netflix obviously started this whole movement by posting DVDs before uh, in the age when people were still consuming VHS tapes. So Netflix alone has 25 years worth of content. That's just Netflix. And like I say, for any of you who are familiar with binge watching, you can probably guesstimate how much of that you've consumed and how many years. Next big one is Prime, and that again has a similar amount of content. And if you were to start counting all the different services, not including YouTube, it just goes on and on. So we've probably got more online content if you start adding all the other different streams and content uh, platforms, then the entire age since the Industrial Revolution. So if you had, like I said, 100 plus years, you still wouldn't be able to consume the sheer amount of content that is there. So hands up to anybody who has suddenly fallen into a trap where you click on something and then you suddenly realize this an hour or so is just gone, right? So in the digital calorie world, we have an infinite buffet, and everything is really attractive because these platforms are really designed to grab your attention. Okay, so that's the next part of this war that we're facing, and most people don't even realize it's war. Same as fast food. Anybody who has had any kind of addiction to fast food, whether it's Coca-Cola or your McDonald's or any of those things, you know that you can't wait until you grab your Coke. But the minute you've finished it, the last bite, you're like, oh, I want more. It's never quite enough. So this addiction in fast food is by design. Now, if we think about where these devices originated, like I said, I've been using the smartphone since the Palm Pilot days, so we're going back more than 20 plus years, maybe longer. We're in now 2026, actually going back 30 years. Yeah, that's how quickly time is going. Um, so I was definitely one of those people who was always on my device, and I've now gone through the full cycle. Remember that cycle? So now I am barely familiar with most modern devices. I hardly answer to my email or phone or mobile, which is really annoying to most people. But if it's a tool, then you only pick up a tool when you have a need. However, what do you do with your smartphone? If you leave the house without it, hands up, who's gone back just to go and get that smartphone? Yeah. So a tool is not something that says, pick me up, me, me. No, that is something that's basically pulling you away from yourself. So it's something that's manipulating you, seducing you. It wants something from you. And that's what I was saying, that these platforms are deliberately targeting you. And so in the digital world, especially since social media came about, I think that was the turning point. The entirety of the social media uh, platform business case was based on ensuring people got onto the platform and stayed on the platform as much and as long as possible. And so instead of having tools, which up until that time, computers and the software on them, whether it's Microsoft Office or databases or your work applications, were there for a purpose, meaning to get things done. And we've so, without our knowledge and certainly without our consent, we have moved from tool-based technology to an addiction-based technology. Now, blaming social media is actually maybe a bit of a overestimation, because television and movies are and have been around much, much longer than that. And so, they use the same mechanisms as does most advertising. But I'm sure you'll agree that there is a major difference where you are a passive consumer with the prior to the age of social media. So the change, and this was the paradigm shift, you suddenly, in quotes, became active, and in quotes, you started uh, the conversation, so to speak. It wasn't that the ad so much prompted you, but you initiated the interaction. Okay, that makes sense? Okay. And so the ease of access and also the affordability. So going back to the fast food model, fast food is very, very cheap, but there's a cost to it, you know. Whereas with the digital tools and platforms, yeah, once you've got your mobile or your laptop or your tablet, and once you've got your internet, well, nowadays nobody even expects those things not to be there. Uh, and so those have become just a given. And so with the tools and the access already there by default, you can now participate 24/7. And so that's all designed by design. So how how would consuming so many calories impact your physical health if you're talking about food and drink, right? It's no surprise that the social um, health, so the social sort of engagement and people's ability to relate with each other has taken a massive hit. So when we talk about socializing, well, social media is the very antithesis of social engagement. Would you agree? Well, yes, it's great that you can reach out and connect to anybody anywhere in the world, but I would argue that a digital exchange has pretty much no real bonding ability compared to an in-person connection. Hopefully, that's something that you can relate to. And the evidence is that people who are spending a lot of time on their social media, instead of feeling that connection, that bond, which happens in a normal social interaction, they're actually feeling lonelier and even to the extreme going into depression. You might be hearing of people who have tens, if not hundreds of thousands of followers, which you would think, would mean that their social uh, lives were that much richer, falling into depression than suicidal tendencies. Um, so this is, as I say, the hidden danger in social media. It's not social in any real way. Okay. And the more people engage with digital devices, the less capable and the less um, human interaction their capacity becomes. Again, this is now, we've now got enough time on the clock so that studies are now available. And that is why governments are now getting involved, because it's ruining children's lives. They can see how, the normal interactions and normal growth in children has been stunted. They are regressing. And hopefully you know what these two things are. Anybody recognize what these two things are, and and if you do suffer from it? Okay, so anybody who's active on WhatsApp will know that when you post something, you will be informed when somebody picks it up. And if they haven't picked it up, and if you are waiting for somebody to pick it up and to respond, worst, it's bad if somebody hasn't read it. It's worse if somebody has read it and they're not responding. So these two things, again, are built into the platform. Now, the good news is you can turn all this stuff off. So that's your first assignment. So write down on your piece of paper, turn off all these feedback mechanisms so that you are basically just sending stuff out and then you just let it go. If people respond and they're on good time, that's fine. If not, and it is important, pick up the phone, call. Back in the day, we actually went round to people's houses and we didn't call, we would just turn up. I don't think that's really possible, certainly not in London where it's a bit of a hassle just to get from A to B. And so people typically make appointments just to visit their friends and family. Okie dokie. So we talked about this already. And so these are the danger signs. And like I said, governments are getting involved because they can see what's happening in front of them. So take a step back. A deep breath. And once again, deep breath. As you take this breath, what kind of thoughts are coming to your mind? Are you comfortable with just taking this breath, sitting back? Ah, yeah, put your feet up. Okay. It's Sunday evening, just chilling out, and hopefully learn something useful so that at the beginning of the week I can start with a nice positive frame of mind. Or are you getting thoughts that are spinning around and saying, I need to get that dinner ready for the kids? Oh, did I forget my shopping? Now the shops are closed. Oh, I've got an assignment due on the Monday morning to present to the boss and still haven't read it. So if you're getting all these different thoughts, you have physically, literally, mentally disconnected from experiencing yourself. Going back, pre-digital age, if as a child, mom or dad weren't looking for you, happy days. That was the best. If mom or dad are not looking for you or your older siblings, brilliant. That's me time. That's my time to do whatever I want. And if I just want to sit back and watch the grass grow, or just spend time watching the ants, whatever, I was perfectly happy, more than content. I enjoyed that. Anybody familiar with that? Okay. Hopefully, people of my generation, or at least those born before the 1990s, are familiar with that experience. If not, then what's happening? Whoa, for a sec. I think I've just lost my ability to connect to these pictures. So bear with me a second. See what's happening here. Okay, I'm going to have to do this manually. Uh, okay, see if that works. No, it's not going to work. Okay, let's just go manual on this then. Bear with me.
Any issues?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get my uh, PowerPoint up and running. Give me a
Maybe
minute.
close it and then reopen it or stop
No, no,
share.
no. It's the animation.
Okay.
I didn't. I tried to change the animation and messed it up, unfortunately. So let's do a quick adjustment. Okay. Oh, that's still not working. Oh dear. All right, I'll just bring it up on here. Okay, so the modern child has grown up with the device in their hand. So, oops. So that even before, they're capable of sort of making decisions and having the ability to choose, their lives are taken over. Does that make sense? So this is the biggest danger that our children face. They're literally being put into an addiction without any say whatsoever. Unlike us, like I said, growing up with the ability to have a choice, our children aren't able to do that. So we grow up in a time where we had no tech, and so we had to make our own fun, and being able to just spend time in nature with other children, and just playing with what we built, or some simple things, is now a very foreign, very strange concept. If you ask somebody who's grown up with tech, can you find your way without using technology? If you were to show them a map, what are the chances that they would be able to navigate from A to B? So again, simple spatial awareness, knowing where my home is, and then being able to just walk from my home to my friend's home, to the local store, and then once you learn to drive, to be able to go to your friend's place or somebody in the next town. You might need a map if you're going somewhere new, but you didn't really need a map if you're visiting somebody you'd been there once or twice. Okay, so all of that now has become a lost art. Right. I think we can go back to slides here. So what we are now seeing is in less than one lifetime, we have grown from being independent, being self-motivated, having creativity at our fingertips, and to be able to experience being in silence, to being enslaved by the digital tools and technology. And the biggest loss, again, think back to your childhood, like I said, when you were left to your own devices, so your parents weren't after you to finish some chores, your homework, whatever it was, you were free. You let your imagination take you into different places, and you, in effect, learn to be with yourself. And that space, that time, that environment where you were just by yourself was very valuable. Because in that space, you learn what it is that you like, what you don't like. You may have a conscience that says, do this, don't do that. So you had a community which very much told you and encouraged you to do the right thing. And so you're conscious. There was a voice that said, yes, this is good, or no, that's not. And so, again, you are developing a healthy human social interaction framework. And within that, where you fit in, where other people fit in. And if you wanted to be respected, let's say, you had models. You could see how that was built. And if something went wrong, again, you had references, you had models of people facing adversity. And I'm talking about, real adversity, not, oh, my phone is dead. um, where you had to then dig deep within yourself to trump, to overcome and to triumph. And that's all leading to building character. So if you take all that away and you have something instantly at your fingertip, you click on a button and it turns up to your door, not within a day or two. In London, things can turn up at your door within an hour or two. So, and if you don't get it, you become upset and you want to complain because you've been told that, once you click, that's a guarantee that you're going to get it. And so your expectations of your needs being met are completely unrealistic because in nature, nothing happens within minutes. Even the so-called natural disasters, which we're now experiencing, are the end result of decades, of hundreds of years of accumulation. And so that slow, gradual pace of accumulation and then result has been completely overturned. And people are in the mindset, you press a button and things happen. And of course, it's happening. And so if that is your real world experience, and then you consume movies and soap operas and whatever, where everything is fixed within an hour. So in the 90 minutes of a full movie, you have the worst triumph, the biggest villain, and hey, within an hour, everything's fixed. And so your spatial reasoning and expectation of getting things done is completely distorted. Now, obviously, I'm speaking in generalities, but when you start bringing it to what's happening with you and the social world, with you and your digital devices, you will see this trend where from having a healthy imagination, realistic expectations, real human connection, day by day, that's growing shorter and shorter and disappearing. And so this innocence that we grew up with, which every child grew up with, where you had the time and the space to discover yourself, to find your boundaries, to interact healthily with everybody and everything around you, has been diminished. And so now we are in a situation where we had, in the beginning, the three wise monkeys, and they taught us what's important. So, in terms of, developing yourself, you learned not to see the bad, not to hear the bad, and certainly not to repeat it. And so, this is where we have the fourth monkey, the one that's been addicted to his digital device. That monkey sees nobody, hears nobody, and speaks to nobody. So we've lost what was human wisdom and understanding, and we've given it over to tech. So, hands up to those of you who have a calendar and a schedule, and if you don't have it, you've no idea what to do from 1 hour to the next or one day to the next. Or if you're not putting things down in your calendar and into your schedule, then important things are not happening. If that's the case, you are that poor monkey. So pause, put on the piece of paper, three wise monkeys, and which one or where am I at? Of course, that changes. If you're at work, you need to deliver. That's one thing. What's happening with you and the family? What's happening with you and your friends? What's happening with you and your family connections? So, without our permission, and certainly without our awareness, this digital connected life that we live has been hijacked. This is a normal brain. And when psychologists doing these experiments look at what's happening, they can see an atrophy of what looks normal to complete loss of that prefrontal cortex. So, surprise, surprise, China was the first country to recognize and um, have computer addiction or digital addiction as a clinical condition. Um, Now, it's not new to pretty much all of the developed world, but for some reason in the society in China, everything seems to be an extreme. And so there are, I wouldn't say the whole generation, but there are lots of young people who have, in quotes, become zombies. They've gone so far into that digital world that they're no longer able to function in the real world. And so they've started a whole movement. Like I said, they were the first to diagnose and accept it as a clinical condition, which means that you can say, like any other medical condition, that this is serious and that it needs professional treatment. Now, let's look at what's happening in your world. everything that I repeat becomes habitual. So in Raj Yoga, we understand this idea that something that I do once, the second time becomes easier, and if I do it often enough, it becomes deep and it becomes what we call sanskara, which means it becomes a character trait, becomes habitual. So if I say, oh, uh, don't think about that pink elephant, your brain immediately brings up in your mind a pink elephant. Why? Because that's how it's designed. So by telling you, don't think about the pink elephant, the brain is incapable of taking the instruction to say, oh, do not think about this, as in take the first two words and then boom, wipe off the rest. It first creates that pink elephant. And now it's going round and round and round, and that's all you're thinking about. And so digital world emphasizes and magnifies your paranoia. And so anything that is presented to the brain is processed. The brain is not making the decision. It just takes it as whatever you presented, and it then processes it. And so people who are playing violent computer games, uh, their response to real world violence is no different to what they're seeing on screen. That should scare the pants off you because, in effect, we're creating generations who are desensitized to extraordinary levels of violence. And one of the most popular games from the 1990s, so we're looking at almost 3 decades, is Grand Theft Auto. This is a game which encourages all sorts of criminal behavior, to say the least. In Hinduism, this concept of tatasthu, it is what it is. The brain just accepts, it takes it literally, whatever is presented to it, it will accept. So now, if you understand and accept this, would you continue with indiscriminate, unfiltered content being streamed straight past all your careful, let's talk about your dietary plan. So if you were to put yourself on a strict diet and yet accept that, anything and everything is just going to come into you, onto your plate, it's never going to work. So again, with children, this is absolute lunacy. Okay, we've talked long enough about all of these issues, and how do we come back into that stillness, that me space? Okay, this is obviously really important to bring into your life and to give children that space as well. And so the first thing is education. Okay, get your pen and paper. And now I'm going to ask you to put down 2 lines, line 1, line 2, and you're going to be writing across. Okay, you ready? Okay, so I want you to write one letter at a time. Okay, so you're going to write a sentence. Multitasking is a lie. And you're going to put each letter, M, and on the second line, you're going to count. First letter, number 1. Got it? Second letter, U, and count. Number 2. Okay, so I'm going to give you a minute to complete that sentence. one at a time. So the next letter will be L. Your count will be 3. Okay, off you go. Okay, so how many letters are there in this sentence? Anybody finished?
18.
There we go. Perfect. Okay. So, it took you a good few minutes to get to the end of the sentence and to make that count. So now, if I ask you to do the same thing, this time you're going to put the sentence one letter at a time at the top, and then you're going to count at the bottom. Off you go. So you're going to write line 3, all the letters one at a time, and then the count at the bottom. Okay, so which one is quicker? You should see
The
that
first
there is
one.
this, yeah, the first one.
No,
Did you do the homework?
I did the first one.
If you write one letter and count once, one letter, number, letter, number, letter, number, letter, number, it's going to take you probably 3 to 5 times as long as if you write all the letters, one sentence, and you start counting from 1 to 18. Hopefully, most people had that experience. I don't know. Maybe you're wired in a different way, but most people will find that exercise 3 and 4 is much, much quicker than 1 and 2. So if you have to write the letter, then count, then the next letter, every time you are doing that, you have to think to yourself, okay, what was the next letter? Oh, yeah, okay. And then, so you have to do a lot more thinking because you have to pick the letter, then you write the number below it, then you go back and pick the next letter, and so on. Whereas if you were to write the sentence, it's what you're used to. Multitasking is a word, so you know already how to spell it. You just write it out. And so there's no real thinking in terms of grabbing the individual letter and then counting it because you already know the word, so you just write it out. Okay? So that's should have been the experience. And the point of this exercise is if I ask you to do one thing, which is to write a word, that's pretty straightforward. But if I ask you to write the word and then count each letter and do it one at a time, suddenly your ability to write that word and then count the letters becomes much, much trickier because, again, if I ask you to write the word remember, no problem. If I ask you to write each letter R, then the number below it, 1, E, number below 2, M, and the number below 3, it takes you a lot longer because you're distracted. Oh, which letter am I on? Oh, what's the next letter in the word, and so on and so forth. And so you are constantly having to go back and forth, back and forth. Every time, you being asked to count each letter separately, it's distracting your ability to think in a continuous, complete, beginning to end kind of way. And our digital devices work in exactly the same way. If you are asked to do an assignment, let's say you're cooking, and if you were focused and you were, in that space, you're able to complete that job very quickly. If every time your child is distracting you in the middle of your cooking, it takes a lot longer because you're being distracted. Now, what does this all this mean? In the early 2000s, when going digital and technology in terms of everything being online, and then having everything on your laptop was considered the greatest thing to do. Many schools introduce tech into the school, and Sweden as a country did that across their education, across all their schools. And then a decade later, they realized that their children were becoming dumber. They were becoming less capable. And so, as of last year, I think, or year before, they are reversing that. So, in less than a decade, or less than 2 decades, and actually, they're completely reversing and bringing back books and pen and paper. Because if you have a digital device, it has so many different options that you can't focus on one thing, keep on getting distracted. And not only that, I talked about the spatial reasoning and awareness. That's also diminishing. Okay. So we talked about how your brain is neutral. And so we need to bring silence back into our world and switch off all these distractions. Those ticks, the black ticks and the blue ticks, turn them all off. I would strongly recommend, if you are on any subscriptions, save yourself some money, and even more, your mental health and well-being, and bin them all. I happen to be in Madhuban in our headquarters in India in February, and like I said, I've gone the full circle. So I made a conscious choice to not even really follow the news. And so the war in the Gulf started, airlines were hit, and all of a sudden, people who were due to fly back home all got stuck. How did that impact me? Well, it didn't. Because I had another week, at least a week and a half to go. So I was in no hurry whatsoever to wonder or worry about making any arrangements, because things were changing by the hour. In one instance, I remember somebody who had a morning flight. They left at 4 in the morning. Actually, that was my flight back. So I had a direct flight coming back. So I was not impacted by the airline having to fly, well, having to stop in the Middle East. They obviously were impacted as they had to go around that area. I had a direct flight, so I didn't have to worry about stopping. But yeah, so on the day I was returning, somebody left earlier, 4 hours before, and then as we were about to head out, those people came back. They actually got on the plane. They flew all the way to a stop they had to make in the Middle East. They couldn't land, and they came all the way back. The point I'm making here is that we're now in a world where we really don't have a lot of say or control about a lot of things. If we don't understand and if we don't realize what's within our control, and we get distracted. So if I had been in that space where I was consuming the news, following every minute, every hour, I would be a basket case. There were people who were in that situation where, they'd spent 2 weeks in great silence and meditation and chilling out and really, built up all the energy, just gone in an instant. And so this is the danger. This is the world we're living in now, where if we're not trained and we're still in this passive mode where the digital devices are ruling our mind space, we have been hijacked, and we will not have that awareness and that capacity to be able to distinguish between what's within my control, what I need to pay attention to, and more importantly, when. So on the day I'm flying out, is my airline operating? Yes, it is. I've got a direct flight. Is there any challenge with getting on that flight? No, there isn't. I'm carefree. I get on the flight, come back home, nothing to worry about. And of course, you can say, oh, I was lucky. But whether that was the case or not, there's nothing I could have done. If, for whatever reason, let's say all the people who are getting bumped off, the airline decided, you know what, I'm going to make some money, which is something that did happen. And people who already had bookings were kicked off, and then they were offered other options and so on and so forth. And again, if that happened to you, you had no real control. So if we're not able to understand what's important, we get caught up and we are just getting stressed for no reason. Okay? So cut down all unnecessary overheads that's taking over your life or your mind, or allocate a space. True story, somebody as a family, this whole program is being delivered in India to all schools as a program. And the person who's running that, the team who's running that, one story shared was the family as a unit are making decisions like they've allocated a space in the house where if you need to engage with digital devices, you go physically to that space, you do what you need to, and then you come out of it. So rest of the house is a digital device free space. Another story, a child came up to one of his colleagues and said, "Thank you, uncle." And he said, "For what?" And because of this kind of uh, ban on digital devices, the family was sitting together, having a family dinner, having real family conversation and interaction and bonding, as in relationship, a real connection. And that enabled the little girl to actually reconnect with her dad. And so when she went back to school, she was able to share that with her friend, and then her friend did the same with her dad. And so she was able to bring her dad back into her life. Real connection, relationship. Right? So you must be aware, I've seen that myself, a family sitting together, and yet every person is on their own device. They're physically in connection, but mentally in the relationship, not there. Okay, you talked about the binge watching. Okay, so that's an addiction that you can definitely let go of. You can do things like making up really difficult passwords and put those on your device. And your brain will say, you know what, I can't be bothered. And so rather than going to your device and putting in a long password, it will just say, forget it. So all of these checkboxes you have, which save your password, uncheck them all so that you have to bother going into your WhatsApp, into your Facebook, into your iStream, whatever. Okay, now the more you are hard and the more you are tough on your digital devices, this is the greatest mercy that you have to yourself and to your relationships. Start having those me times in your daily calendar, daily schedule. So whether it's a breakfast or your lunch or dinner, make it a digital free, screen free event. Talk to the people around you. If you can, we have the concept of upwas. and this means you fast, right? So in Hinduism, because we recognize the value for the body and for your physical well-being and your mental well-being of all sorts of fasts, you can do the same with your digital device. Okay, as usual, I've rambled on and on way too long. So I'm going to wrap it up. Just if you can stay for another few minutes. So meditation, which is what we're going to start with, is the key to bringing that me time back into your life. Okay.
Uh, just before the meditation starts, Brother Rajesh, I
Yeah.
know we are already over time, but in case there are any short question, just one or two, can we take that up,
Yeah,
please?
sure.
Everyone? Okay, I don't see any question. I think the presentation was quite clear to clear all the doubts. And I hope you have all taken your notes about the digital calories we all take in. And so we have to actually get rid of that distraction machine soon so that we consume that less. So we are always counting the calories of the staple food which we have daily rather than the consumption of the media. So that's so important, and you have told the techniques, and we'll all be making use of that. Thank you so much. I think I think I don't see any questions in the chat as well, so we can just wrap it up with the quick meditation.
Hi, Bhavna.
Oh, okay.
Okay, just one. I just
Yeah,
want
hi,
to
Sabina.
ask Rajesh. Uh, it's, what do you think about AI? Because, quite a number of students are now accessing that to help with their assignment, their academic work. What is your view?
So, like we talked about tools that enrich, enhance, and add to the human.
Hmm,
And so, if you are using the tool to add and not to take over or substitute, that's fine. The danger, because this is the whole point of the digital hidden agenda, is that you start outsourcing your thinking to AI. Those of you who drive, if you do use sat nav, are you able to navigate from A to B without your sat nav? Something that you used to be able to
hmm,
do? You'll
hmm,
find you've lost that ability. So the danger with AI is if you outsource your critical thinking, your
hmm.
creativity, your
Yeah.
ability to have numeric or logical reasoning,
Hmm,
you are not adding, you are taking away.
hmm,
So that's the biggest
hmm.
danger. Yeah. So
Yeah.
again, you need to be educated and informed, and that's not what's happening. They are putting AI into anything and everything, and
Hmm.
so you're becoming a slave and not a master.
Yeah, that's so true. Thank you.
Okay. Kendi?
Oh, sorry. Just I'm Shanti. Yeah, just wanted to
Okay.
say thank you for such a really good, talk, because it's just something about patience. It suddenly realised, like, because everything's on the tip of our fingers. Like nobody can wait anymore, and I just realised how, like, everybody, like, I feel like very rushed because everything's immediate, and that's something the mental health, I'm in the time where read the maps. I remembered all the telephone numbers of relatives, and when you mentioned that, that made a lot of sense. And I drive a car and I do follow the GPS, and I've forgotten. And if it tells me a different route, I'm just going to be, I don't really pay attention to the route. I just like listen to it and then get there, but I don't know it in my head. So that just made a lot of sense. What you said, it's very clear. But I think because of the children and the generations changing, the family, like everybody is rush, and I can't
Yeah.
even plan, because the planning, I can see why now I can't plan properly, because it's all too fast. It's like
Yeah.
we're fitting more tasks than what we can do because we have the fast technology. but then it's going to affect us because
Yeah.
we're trying to fit that time. So just wanted to share that. I think you brought a lot of stuff come in, and I've got to really think about planning now and how to slow down. So it was really good session. Yeah, it's really explained really well. So thank you so much.
Most of us on this call hopefully are people who have an experience of the pre-digital world, pre-laptops, pre-mobiles, and so we know what it should be like. So we know what good looks like. The danger with children is they don't have that frame. They have zero awareness of what good looks like. And if you look at money, that's again a huge subject, but we've taken away the ability for the younger generation to understand the value of money. And I include myself in that, because when you tap with a card and you press buttons to buy something and you don't hand over paper, there's a complete disconnect in your mind, in your reasoning of the value of an exchange of something for something. That's another subject altogether. But these are all hidden agendas that we are at the mercy of with these digital platforms. So we need to bring back all of these qualities back into our lives and take control. That's the key message. Okay, so let's just go into a bit of silence and to really connect, because it's important to recognize oops. Just take a deep breath, let go. With each breath, I allow myself to just breathe, expand my lungs and my diaphragm so that everything has more space. Ah. With every breath, creating space and releasing tension. Ah. I remind myself I am a being of light. My true, my original, and my eternal state of mind, my very being, is peace. Om Shanti. I, the soul, am peace. It's two words to enable me to connect, to re-experience my natural, my original, my eternal home, my true self. Um, Thank you all, and apologies for just going over. Need to do better on that. So, leave you a final warning. I said, digital addiction is now recognized as a clinical condition, and all of us, to some extent or another, are under its. Where we're being controlled. So we are all addicted to some extent. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Brother Rajesh, for this informative talk. And I'm sure everybody would have taken notes out of your beautiful presentation. So don't need to say sorry. We are so much thankful to you for this talk. So we have Surinder Bhai and Kokila Ben on the call. So everyone, please, if possible, please turn on your cameras so that we can just share a word of thanks with Brother Rajesh.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, before we,
So,
sorry, yeah, please go
as I
ahead.
say, hopefully well, the goal is we want to start this digital detox program here in the UK. So in India, Bala and team have rolled it out, like say, to colleges, universities, IITs, and they're recognized officially by the government of India. And so they've got a full one semester's, or is it a full year? I'm not sure. Definitely a semester of credit at that level for the digital detox program. And so the goal is we want to try and bring that here to the UK. Okay.
Rajesh, just a quick one. You said that there are two mitigants which are available. One is the digital distance, and the second one you said that make a difficult password so that it becomes boring for anyone to introduce. So I was just wondering, I mean, if you go by the definition, you said that it's a clinical condition. So if you go by the definition of UN, health definition of which is given by UN, which says that it's a physical, mental, and social. So digital uh, uh, this addiction destroys
Addiction.
all three of them. So I was just thinking, I mean, as we mentioned on the cigarette smoking, that cigarette smoking is injurious to health, and also on the liquor, also the similar kind of warning is there. So is it not possible to bring some kind of phrase uh, which uh, I mean cautions children and people, and which can be introduced in the school, so that it can easily be filtered by students
Yeah,
and
so this is the goal of this. This is like a little bit of a taster session. So,
okay.
like I said, the team in India have a full program that's been officially endorsed by the government of India. And the Sweden study is an example of actual studies that have been done so that they have the facts on hand. So if they were to go to a organization, they could present all of this evidence. So, like I said, it's a matter of building trust and then showing the value. But the rate of the research is becoming more and more, and that's why you must be aware that governments in different countries, I think even the UK, are considering banning it for school children for sure in the school. And so they're not going to take these kind of decisions lightly. The challenge we face as adults is that the people behind these tools are just too powerful. And so there's way too much money to be made in like selling drugs, right? We all know that the people selling drugs, it's not that they can't be stopped, but they're just too powerful because there's money in it. And this is Kali Yuga, right? So anywhere
Yes.
they can make money, there's no stopping them. It's only by giving people education awareness, and they become aware of the dangers, and then they see the benefits. So people now know hatha yoga is important. Meditation, any doctor in any country will not deny you that this is something which has real health benefits to your mental health, right? For sure. So now we are in a time where we just need to be ready to give people that experience. That's all we need to do, and then the facts and the figures and all that other people will take care of.
Wonderful.
Let's hope
Very,
best.
very good
We have
initiative.
power, but we have the visualization to stop it. So that's what we have our first foot forward and hope for the best, right? Okay, so few more announcements before we let Brother Rajesh go. So this is a flyer of our every Saturday we hold a meditation from 7 to 7:45, which is actually centered around few topics which change every Saturday, followed by a guided meditation. So please, who have not suggested their email IDs, please send us an email on this ID. We'll put you on the weekly reminders we have. So please feel free to join this meditation every Saturday. Like this talk, which is like every last Sunday of the month, we also hold a Hindi talk, which is first Sunday of every month. Every month. So topic for this month is like healing power of silence. So please feel free to join. And if you are not registered with the email notifications, please send us an email. We will put you on that reminder so that you can take benefit from the experienced speakers we have, like Brother Rajesh. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in, and hope you stay hydrated in this
Thank you.
heat and hot weather. Okay, thank you, everyone. Let's wave.
Thank you.
Brother
Thank
Rajesh,
you.
thank you so much for joining in, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.